smoker company out of Tyler. They also built Leo's pits at Truth, okay,
Mm-hmm.
later. So I have that pit under construction. In the meantime, I run to HEB, get a smaller offset, put it in the backyard, and start smoking brisket. So up until this time, I've only done turkey, which I loved on Thanksgiving. I always smoked my own turkey. I learned that from my stepfather, who was a coon ass in Beaumont, right? So I learned that from him, and then, but he liked to use mesquite. I was never a big fan of mesquite, so I went to pecan straight off, East Texas pecan. Wanted something
Mm-hmm.
subtle, wanted to create a sultry smoke bath. And God, like, he just literally, John said, okay, I'm going to give you this gift, kiddo. You're 50 years old. You've been blessed with this incredible passion that you've had all these years in construction and creating beautiful landscapes all over the country, right? Well, now you're going to be blessed with the opportunity to create great fire. And with that, smoke incredible barbecue. So it came so natural to me. I almost feel like sometimes I feel guilty maybe because I know some people struggle with things that came so easy to me. And I just feel so blessed to have had that. So as soon as I nailed the brisket and I create the flavor profile I wanted, I knew that I wanted to create my own sauce, right? So that year of this, really honing the craft more or less, I entered some competitions. The first one I entered was Ronald McDonald House, Bands, Brews, and Barbecue, right?
Okay.
And it was Pits and Spits was there, several other big guys, people, this was my first time. So I wasn't familiar with a lot, but when Pits and Spits rolls in with their party bus and the margarita machines and the lights are going, and they're literally partying all night long. And I'm one woman in a tent with my trailered rig at this point by myself. That was it. It was just me. The girls, my wife and some friends had set me up and they left and did my thing all night, based on the plan that I had in my head of what I needed to do and what I had seen on Barbecue Pitmasters, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And sure enough, man, they kind of eyeballed me all night. I could feel them watching me. That's all good. I was the only woman there. And sure enough, though, when they called ribs and we'd won with ribs, I knew that we were onto something. Those guys went crazy. They descended on the tent. They were all excited too. It was something different,
Yeah.
And so I knew we were onto something. And from that, we were invited to a state championship out of 250 teams. Ernest Cervantes was right next to me. That was so funny. It was before he really had his biggest breakout, but he ended up being my judge on chop. So that was kind of cool too. But he was right next to me. Again, I'm the only woman there for the most part, 250 teams. We placed 14th. So I was very happy with that, right? So this is our second competition.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, I realized it wasn't what I really wanted to do. I had started, kind of dialing in craft barbecue.
Right.
And that's what appealed to me. So taking those century-old family recipes and looking at those and saying, okay, how can I make these next level sides? How can I take these recipes and turn them into next level sides? So it was about starting with premium ingredients and then refining the cooking technique. So maybe instead of boiling something or parboiling in water, I started sauteing in butter to start with, and just shifting from there. And then again, premium ingredients. So I knew I wanted to really hone that craft and develop all of my own, seasoning and rub blends and really dial in that I wanted salt and pepper on beef and I wanted Creole on poultry and pork. Okay. So I made that dividing line. So with my sauce, as soon as I got the flavor profile that I wanted in my sauce, I knew immediately it would be an HEB. So within a year, somebody had called them and the boss from the sauce, emailed them actually. And then, so the boss of the sauce, Mark Bradshaw reaches out to me and says, can you come up to HQ and, haul your rig and, smoke your brisket and present your sauce? Like, can I?
Of course.
I'm on my way. I'm on my way. So so within a few days I did. So I drove up there, it was on a Thursday, smoked brisket, presented the sauce. And as a entrepreneur and as a salesperson, for me, it was the first time I sat down and in the room. And before I even sat down, the deal was done. It's like literally you walk in the door, this deal is done.
Yeah.
So, and they dropped me into an unprecedented amount of stores, like almost 300 stores right off the bat.
Wow.
And literally made it so easy for me. It was seamless. They went from the bottling company to shipping it out to all their warehouse locations, from their warehouse to their stores, from the store to the shelf. I never had to do anything. They made it so seamless.
Wow.
But at the same time, I had to sacrifice on some of the quality ingredients I wanted. The high fructose corn syrup, I never wanted that. But in order to get into their price point, we had to make some of those compromises. So we did that for about 5 years. And I, was given the opportunity to either remain or, go global, which is what I wanted to do. Take it back, reformulate, drop the high fructose corn syrup, stay with premium ingredients, which I prefer, and really be the sauce that I always wanted it to be. Yeah. So that's where we are now. And it's going out globally. We have Sweet Heat and Original, Mindbender will be out shortly, and that is an incredible chipotle heat that we've received from these folks called Ben Sauce out of Bend, Oregon. I guess the name Ben keeps rolling in, and so I thought Mindbender, it's kind of a tie-in. The chipotle heat it's organic. It's so incredibly just earthy and rich, and I can't wait to get that on the market. So it's just, one thing that has led to the next for me in this barbecue journey. And it started literally from scratch, like with everyone. You start and determine if you can manage fire, and then can you render a brisket, rendering brisket. And I said this on Barbecue Showdown, and I do mean it, and I don't mean it as an insult to anyone, but if you're not doing brisket, you're not doing barbecue, in my opinion.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
They seem to all do pork over there. I understand that's part of barbecue, right? Pork is very important in barbecue, but it's not. There's so much more to it, And I think in Texas, that's what sets us apart. In Texas barbecue is that it's so just encompassing. We are. It's unlimited to what we're willing to do with protein and live fire.
It's pretty amazing. And a couple things that you talked about there that I want to kind of follow up on, because
yes, sir.
You said you went. You were kind of, I guess, surprised yourself at how far along you were. Yeah. Did you find that all those years of just kind of hanging around, pitmasters, that you didn't know what you knew? You know?
Very much so. That's exactly it. It's like, it's funny what you absorb, without knowing it, and then it's almost like muscle memory. So it just literally, I could just look at a fire and just glance at it, and know exactly what it needs, how long it can go at that temp, before I need to do anything. It was just, I think to me, one is that I really enjoy a fire. So I had a large fire pit. I've always had one, whether it was at my ranch in Huntsville or a place in Austin or my home here in Kingwood. I've got a massive sunken fire pit. So I have always had an affinity for fire, And
the other thing that, and I wanted to get to this, so I'm glad you mentioned it, is, you talk about craft barbecue.
Yes, sir.
What is it? What define craft barbecue? Because a lot of people toss that term around, but I think you might have a little different definition of what craft barbecue is.
In my perspective, in my opinion, craft barbecue is starting with the best of everything, right? So you start with the best meat that you can possibly source, all the proteins, and then the best produce that you can work with in all your sides, the best ingredients that go into all those sides. So starting with the best of everything, right? And then it's crafting the flavor profiles that you want to hone in. For me, being salt and pepper on beef. Well, it's not just any pepper. I source a very hard to find pepper that stays on the vine longer and is much more aromatic, right? So I'm looking for something that's going to give me more complexity in that than just putting table pepper, on the brisket or something, or a coarse grind pepper, any coarse grind. So I'm looking for something that's really going to be have a depth and complexity of flavor, and then that to me is about craft. You're crafting something and you're layering, flavors and making sure that they all complement each other.
Right.
So to me, that's all in the essence of developing a craft. The craft in managing fire, the craft in rendering brisket to the point where it is a succulent, melt in your mouth bite of barbecue that you'll never forget. That the marbling, the fat has rendered to a point where it's obviously that beautiful buttery, opaque color, and it's just, oh my God, it's just, it's just such a thrill. You're always in the pursuit. I know for myself, I'm always in the pursuit of excellence in anything that I do. I want to be the best at it. That's just something that it's innately in me since I was a child, and doing this definitely, for anyone that has any kind of obsessive tendencies, barbecue, is probably the thing for you, because it is a constant pursuit of getting better, doing better, more knowledge, and pursuing a craft that that you will never know it all. Never. And if you ever think you do, man, you need to get out, man, because there's so much to it. Every day it's different. Every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, here's the other part about that. That first little discussion we had. We talked about 100 years worth of barbecue in your family. It's got to be pretty. You got to be pretty brave, or obsessive, or risky, or something. Because I know, or all of the above. Because I know they had their own way of doing barbecue. Yeah, old school. It's called Fowler's, correct?
Yeah, Fowler's.
Yeah, for years.
On a rotisserie, in the back of the restaurant. And my Uncle Bud, he's the last of the family that did it, smoked barbecue there. And he had a guy that was with him for a very long time. And it was just old school, man. And just on that rotisserie, and it was the perfect brisket sandwich, nothing special, nothing overly No big bark or anything like that. Just great
Yeah.
smoke and tenders. Hell, it's great.
Okay. So there you are. For 100 years, it's been that way.
Yeah,
Well,
but the family sides, is where, for me, it's, that's where the magic is. So taking those sides that, that my mama, my great grandmother, my mom had made, and then again, like I said, elevating those with, cooking technique and quality premium ingredients.
Yeah. Okay. So this is all happening, right? And it's all in your history, all in your life. And all of a sudden you come in and say, you know what? I'm going to change some things. Were you at all like maybe reticent or maybe a little reluctant to all of a sudden have this in your family, in your blood, and all of a sudden, you know what, I'm going to change everything?
No, actually, I guess maybe that was ignorance on my part. I didn't give it a lot of thought. I knew that I had a great base to work with, right? And I'm like, I can only make this better. I felt very confident in that. It was great to begin with, but I knew that I could make it really incredible. Take a mac or something and make it so decadent. Banana pudding, something my mom, it's been my brother and myself, our favorite since we were kids. How do I elevate that banana pudding that everybody makes, right? So you start thinking of all the decadent things that you can add into it, whether it's, condensed, milk or heavy cream, and making a really decadent custard, and then adding fresh whipped cream to that. And I mean, it just, you start building things in there that can make it incredibly decadent, make a great bite of banana pudding that you'll never forget. It won't be like your mom's, banana pudding. So
but it'll be yours, and it'll be delicious.
But it'll be mine. But it jumped off from her. I mean, they are the launching pad, right? For sure. Yeah. And those recipes in our family stood up forever. The candy baked beans, all that. So what I did with the candy baked beans, for instance, is that I increased the cooking time by far. Okay. It takes 4 hours for it to caramelize, to become candy. If not, they're just running every day, half-assed baked beans. Yeah. So it's letting that bacon completely render, where it dissolves, and you just left a little bits of bacon meat as opposed to fat, So all that fat is, rendered into it. The onions, everything, the dark brown sugar, the Worcestershire sauce, the ketchup, all of it comes together, and over a 4-hour period, it really creates something that my mom and my grandmother, I used to love the way they made it, but now it's like, whew, they would love it too. They really like this.
And this is where our listeners can come in and say, oh, okay, I think I'm going to learn from this. And I want to kind of, pinpoint that exact thing you're talking about, whether it's me or a professional or a restaurant. I feel like a lot of people sort of, oh, by the way, let's do some sides, rather than focus on the sides and get meticulous with it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. So what I would say, that's one of the things that also sets craft barbecue apart, and is maybe a signature of being in craft barbecue, is that you have next level sides. I don't know any craft barbecue joints that aren't doing next level sides, and not only the sides, the desserts, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking with Aaron.
Yeah, that's anybody at this point. Everybody's like, okay, you do good protein, but what are your sides like? Yeah, that's where the chefy shit comes in.
I like that. I might have to steal that. But yeah, no, I was talking with Aaron and Patrick Fegis over at Fegis Barbecue.
Oh God, I love them. Aaron is my idol.
Yeah, and that's what she does. I mean, she is like,
I tell everybody. I just did Houston Live. I did a BBC thing. I'm telling everybody. I said, Fegis, there are times they have 25 freaking sides, and everyone is stellar. Yeah. Every last one.
Yeah, and so kind of to bring it back to what our listeners. Yeah. It's okay to experiment, isn't it? I mean, you can make mistakes. You're gonna make mistakes. Do not enough people experiment with either the craft techniques or the sides and learn and go to places, to people like you, and read your books, which we'll get to, et cetera. Is that one of the things that maybe can separate you as a backyard pitmaster?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It is right now. Like I said, it's not about the proteins anymore in craft barbecue and establishing a name for yourself. It's going to be a given that if you know how to do barbecue, you're going to get your proteins right. What's going to set you apart is going to be the sides. So if you want to up your game, man, you need to start thinking about those sides. Think outside the box, or take those family recipes that you've had in your family for 100 years, and how can you elevate them? Can you get better ingredients? Can you refine that technique? Can you saute with butter as opposed to parboiling something? Can you cook it longer to get it to caramelize? I mean, what can you do that's going to elevate it? So definitely, that's where you up your game, and that's where you set yourself apart in barbecue right now.
Yeah, no question. Sure. The other thing that I often talk to a lot of pitmasters like yourself, experts like yourself, and it always kind of comes back to, don't get me wrong, I made a ton of mistakes.
Mistakes happen all the time. I try to tell people if I can. I'm sorry, John, but
No, go ahead.
there are no mistakes. There's no failure. Okay. The only time you ever fail at anything is when you don't get up or you don't try again. Right.
Yeah.
So in cooking, as with any craft, any art, there are going to be things you've done. You're like, what the heck was I thinking? That didn't go right. That didn't turn out the way I had anticipated. And you just start again. You do it again. You figure out where you went wrong, omit it, add it, whatever, and you keep going. But it is to be expected that you're going to cook something. All the time, there'll be at least twice a month I cook something. I'm like, what was that? I had a concept. Where did it go, man?
Yeah. All right. So to limit some of those mistakes, what are some baseline techniques? And we don't even have to talk necessarily about brisket. We're going to do that in a second. But like some baseline techniques where you want to limit the mistakes. Make sure you do this. Whether it's ribs or chicken, those tend to be the main ones. Like a lot of people say it's too dry or I didn't.
Yeah, I got you there, man.
Yeah. So
let's go with poultry. Because people that like turkey and like poultry really like ours because of the flavor we bring. Okay. So I think I had said before, we do a Creole profile on our poultry. So with that in mind, you can really dry out poultry and people don't expect it to have a lot of flavor. Okay. So let's go with this. So I take a butter, a really quality butter, and I'm going to add a really nice Creole seasoned blend to that, make a really nice compound butter, let it set up for a bit, right? So the flavors are marrying. And then I'm going under the skin, all right, on a turkey breast. I prefer the skin on turkey breast, the whole turkey breast without the bone. And I'm shoving it up under there and I'm making sure it's completely covered underneath completely. And then I'm doing the same on top. So I know that I'm starting with a really dry skin too. So I pat the skin, set it back in the fridge and let it completely dry out, because when I put butter on it, it's obviously going to moisten it again. Yeah. So I want it to stay as dry as possible, as long as possible. Yeah. And that helps with the crispiness of the skin. So with that in mind, I'm adding so much moisture to that turkey that when you slice it, when you take it out at 165, and sometimes I prefer to go to 170, but I would never go past that if you want a really succulent turkey, right? Or even chicken. So 165 to 170, I'm taking it off. I let it rest only 15 minutes before I slice it on poultry only. And I render a very, very succulent, juicy poultry, whether it be chicken or turkey. And I do the same process to both of them. So it's a lot of butter and Creole seasoning underneath the skin.
That's what I was just going to ask you.
Yes, a lot on top we have a great Creole rub. So that same seasoned butter that went under the skin, again, I'm coating the exterior and then I'm adding our Creole rub on top of that. The flavor is explosive.
That is a great tip right there, and that's something I've never tried. I've gone under the
skin. A lot of butter.
But a lot of butter. Who can go wrong? What's wrong with butter?
Makes everything better.
Nobody's ever said a bad word about butter. I can guarantee.
No,
you
in Texas, everything starts with bacon, fat, butter, and onions. So there you go.
Exactly.
Right.
And I feel like I missed the boat here. You've said we a couple of times, and I haven't even talked about what you're doing now. Let's talk about where you are. And how your restaurant is going, your business is going.
The trailer, I tell you what, I closed the trailer last year.
That's why I said business. That's why I said
that's okay. That's okay. I had both hips replaced just before going to Atlanta to film Barbecue Showdown. And when I came back, I pretty much had decided I was not going back to the trailer. 114 degrees in the summer with AC. At my age, I was like, I'm not sure I really want to do that. Yeah. But I did love being able to feed the masses, more or less, so to speak. Being in the public with it was just fantastic. But I think right now we're doing catering. We're doing special orders. We got holiday orders up right now. And as I'm pivoting more to my next phase for me is more the media element of barbecue. I want to bring Texas barbecue to the world, basically. There is a global phenomenon. Global obsession about Texas barbecue. I've been preaching about it for 10 solid years. And now I think with this last drop on, with Barbecue Showdown season 3, for me anyway, it's this global outpouring of incredible fascination with Texas barbecue.
Yeah, no, and we're seeing it. We've had people, actually, I think our guest next week is Jess Pryles, who I believe is from Australia.
Oh my God. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So Europe right now, you can Google Great Britain kids eating brisket for the first time. See what comes up. All right. Their heads are exploding off their shoulders. They cannot believe that something could be this tender and succulent, and just It blows their mind. So Texas barbecue, I want to bring to the world. I really want to focus some media attention via a partnership with another local talk show host. Okay. And we want to dedicate some time to Houston barbecue specifically. I very kind of, I don't know. I feel you're not cocky if you can back it up. Okay.
Yeah.
That's my feeling. So last week when I was co-hosting Houston Life with Tessa, I said this point blank. Houston is the epicenter of Texas barbecue. I'm sorry. It really is.
People will argue with you on that.
That's okay. They can argue all they want. But here's the deal. Houston has surpassed LA and New York, right, as the most diverse city in the nation. Okay. Yeah. So in my opinion, it almost makes you like almost that most diverse in the world, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Right. So with that in mind, our culinary scene is equally as diverse, right? So our barbecue scene is unparalleled in its diversity. Name another city in this state that has the type of diversity in their barbecue that we do.
No, okay. You're not going to get any argument from me.
Okay.
But everybody else talks.
Well, they can argue, but yeah, I'm talking facts, man. I'm talking facts. Back it up. Show me what you got.
Well, and the other thing is, Texas also seems to be welcoming more styles of classic barbecue. I'm not talking about like Korean or whatever. I'm talking about like Memphis and whole hogs and stuff like that, which we used to turn our noses up at, if we're being honest. But now Texas seems to be sort of welcoming that a little bit more. Maybe some of these styles and integrating them in what we do.
I would have to say this. To me, whole hog has been a part of Texas barbecue from, when the Germans and Czechs and everybody else were, cooking stuff in the ground. I mean, they cooked whole hog. It wasn't just a cow's head,
And my people, the Hispanics with the barbacoa.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. So in Texas, for me, live fire and cooking in that style has been around since the advent of time, for us. So yes, on a more what would that be? On a more public scale, you're seeing us do more whole hog where we haven't maybe been, it's not been a mainstay. So yes, you're right. It's not been a mainstay in say, for instance, Houston barbecue, but there are guys that are definitely doing it now. Yeah. And as a regular, and Feegis is one of those guys that's really good at it. Obviously Patrick is awesome. I'm trying to think Pinkerton does it. And who else is doing whole hog right now?
I know Leonard does some.
Leonard does some, but like Pinkerton and Feegis, they do it on the regular. And there's someone else, man. I'm just going blank on. The Koi, Koi barbecue, right? They went to Great Britain and did whole hog, right? Just recently. So that's what I mean. It's just so incredibly diverse, and barbecue is everything. It's all protein. Memphis, Kansas City, North Carolina, Georgia, all those regions are so just pork only, and to me, that's just so limiting. So that's what I mean. Again, coming back to that, you're not doing barbecue if you're not doing beef, bottom line, brisket. Yeah, so it's all, you got to be doing it all. You
made the transition for me. I wanted to get into brisket. I don't know how many, I've done maybe 5% of our shows where we didn't talk about brisket because it is the holy grail, so to speak. And people outside of Texas. People outside of Texas want to know how we do it. People in Texas want to know how we can do it better. And you have a brisket book. I don't know how long it's been out.
Yeah, actually, we just started. We're going to hit pre-order on Friday, so we've got it posted and let everybody know that's coming. And it's going to be the brisket book, an entire book dedicated to the craft of creating a melt-in-your-mouth succulent bite of brisket, from meat selection, wood selection, all the way to slicing and everything in between. There's so much that goes into it. From the moment you walk up to the counter, wherever you're purchasing it, Costco, H-E-B, Restaurant Depot, wherever, from that moment that you engage by looking at that brisket, what are you looking for? That is going to dictate the quality at the end, So it's all about selection.
Now, obviously, we want people to get your book, but
TexasQ.com.
TexasQ.com. Hey, I'm all about it, man. I want to support everybody in this industry. But
thank you.
Okay, but the let's say the gist of the book, because we hear things about wrapping, not wrapping. Or feel.
One thing determines wrapping for me. One thing alone. All right. So at 5 hours, if my bark is perfectly formed, I'm going to wrap. Okay. Bottom line. If it's not, I don't wrap.
Do you not ever wrap, or do you wait to wrap?
Sometimes I'll go through the whole cook and not wrap because the bark didn't form the way I wanted to till the very end.
Yeah.
As long as it gets to 207 and it's probing like butter, I don't give a damn if I've wrapped or not. What's been the determining factor has been that my bark be perfect. If my bark is perfectly formed, that's it. I don't want no more heat touching my bark. You know what I
mean? Pepper heavy on, so you can get that bark, or what are your go-tos there?
Okay, so mustard is a must for me. I'm a firm believer that mustard is the base of all great bark. Absolutely. Okay. And I tried none. I tried oil, and I went with mustard. Mustard's a natural tenderizer. It leaves absolutely no residual flavor. The only thing it imparts is the most incredible bark you'll ever create on your brisket. So then I do a coarse grind on my pepper. I grind my pepper myself. Again, as I said, I source a very hard to find, really incredibly aromatic, complex depth of flavor in that pepper. And then a coarse grind on the kosher salt. I can tell you that my ratio is 1 cup of black pepper after it's been ground to 1/2 cup of kosher salt mixed well. And I consider there to be a light, medium, and heavy. All right, cover. Once you put rub on, I am not heavy, but it's not quite medium. It's like right in between medium and heavy, where I can see some mustard, but I don't want to see much.
Yeah.
But I don't want it to be black either. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I got you on that.
It has to be perfect. I'm looking for perfect.
Aren't we all?
Yes.
and then the last thing is, a lot of people want to use, and you should, the probe for temperature, but it's not just the probe, right? A lot of people
it's all feel. Yeah, it has. If it doesn't feel right, which is one of the things. If you guys know, if you watched the Showdown season 3, the brisket episode, behind the scenes, I was absolutely tripping about those briskets. They were supposed to be prime. They were select. Oh, they were hard as a fucking brick. I'm sorry, they were hard.
Okay. That's okay. Yeah. It's a podcast. Go ahead.
No, I was literally freaking out. I'm like, I'm going home on brisket. My career is over. This is horrible. It would never loosen up. It was never going to loosen up for any of us. We're all just absolutely panic struck about that.
And so what is the feel? What does the feel? Describe it.
So the feel for me, you're going right up into it.
That's what I do. That's what I do.
Yeah, right, I want it to flip over, and I want my fingers up in it. Yeah, I definitely. I need to it needs to have some give to it for sure.
So you want it to pop, or you want to just make it feel like it's about to when you?
I don't have to go into it. It's really soft. I know it's soft.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, so let's talk about Barbecue Showdown, and you were on Chopped as well, I believe.
Yes, sir. Leonard was there. Esau from Twin Smokehouse, right? And Carlo Casanova. He's a competition guy from San Antonio. Yeah. And then Ernest was our judge. That was crazy. They all knew Ernest. I was like, oh my God. I was starstruck. I'd known Ernest only because he was next to me at my second competition I ever did, but he was just like, he's bigger than life. I'm so amazed by what they've done at Burnt Bean. Incredible stuff.
Before we get into Showdown, which I've been watching here in the last few weeks, I'm one of those guys. That's why I wanted to ask this question. So I'm one of those guys that I'm not gonna, brag, but I know I'm good at barbecue. I've been doing it for 40 years, 45 years, whatever it is. I'm good, but I'm not you, and I'm not Leonard, and I'm not that. So I'm always like watching like Chopped, and it's not always pitmasters, it's even regular Chopped. Yeah. And I'm like, what would I do with that basket? What would I do?
Oh my God.
And I always have, it's like game shows. I always have great ideas when I'm sitting on my chair.
Sure.
But I'll bet you when you're actually there, like, what was that like? Like
I'm gonna let you know a secret, John. There are many times in my life that I would really say that I've choked. That was one. The producer, that I worked with leading up to the filming, said I work 80 hours a week. I got 2 kids. When I get home, I know I'm making a pasta dish. I don't know what kind of fucking pasta, but I'm gonna make a pasta dish, right? He said, have a plan and stick to it. So I had a plan. Right. So then I opened that box, and there's mealworms, short ribs, okra, and Texas toast, right? Yeah. Now, in hindsight, as soon as I leave there, I realized really God had given me everything that I could have needed to work with to actually fulfill my plan. Okay. Yeah. But at that moment, I freaking choked. I swore to myself, that will never happen again, right? But it's a horrible feeling, man. But we were all kind of on a level playing field. We all undercooked our short ribs, right? So ultimately, it comes down to the coating on my okra did not stay on completely. It was an East Texas fried okra. I went with that. Yeah. I ground up the mealworms, the Texas toast, and then created and cornmeal, and added cornmeal and created my fried okra. Yeah. I went with the short rib. I actually put it in boiling water, to try to expedite the cooking process. Yeah. Took it out of boiling water, rubbed it with my Creole rub. Actually, is what I came up with. It's kind of a Creole rub. Put that on it. Put it back on a flat grill top, and then tried to, do something with it. It was just absolutely horrific. But they actually they loved the flavor. You know, they're like, everybody's meat was raw. It's like, we love the flavor in your rub. We love the flavor of the okra, but the breading didn't stay on, so that was enough. I was out.
Yeah.
Like but that's good for me, man. I chose. So in hindsight, what I was going to do was a filet bruschetta on a crostini. So take the crostini, right? A nice smoked filet, slice it thinly, a garlic spicy aioli mayo, right? With the filet, caramelized shallots, and I think it was maybe a little bit of chives on top. But anyway, it would have come together. I had Texas toast. I had the short rib. Why not shave off the freaking short rib, right?
Yeah.
Cook it. It would have cooked faster. And then made my garlic spicy aioli and caramelized some onions. It would have all come together. But because I chose.
But
right?
you weren't sitting on your couch. You weren't sitting
exactly.
in your chair. See,
whatever, man. I've always been a big believer that you work your plan. You plan and you work your plan. If not, you're planning to fail, kind of thing. You know. So I was so disappointed.
That's one thing I wanted to ask you. And then there's Barbecue Showdown, which has really been a big hit.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, amazing. They love that. Netflix really buys into it. Obviously, they started casting season 4 before we even dropped.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I think the last episode I watched, you made a hamburger. It was like the fast food episode.
Yeah, Texas Q Tejas Texas Q Rodeo Burger. I keep wanting to say Tejas because of my buddy up at Tejas Barbecue, Scott Moore. I keep thinking Tejas. It's Texas Q Rodeo Burger. Yes, and I don't eat fast food. We talked about that in the episode. So I just came up with on the fly, was grounding up the chuck and adding bacon into the grind.
Right, and you
gave it great flavor. Gave it great flavor, a lot more fat, and then did a smash burger. It was so not too thick. They struggled with the thick burger. They did not like that dough on the other guys.
So with Barbecue Showdown, as popular as it is, when exactly did you realize that you were kicking ass, if we're being honest, because you went all the way, I think, to the final 3 or something. I mean, did you had to have gained confidence over the course of the show? Yeah,
I tell you, the first 2 challenges, I was feeling a lot of imposter syndrome. Right. My style is so like hardcore Texas barbecue, right? Southern soul food. That's what I do, right? And I'm looking around, and Kareem's come from Egypt to do fucking brisket, man. Seriously. He's traveled across the world to come, smoke brisket. He's got amazing Egyptian flavors and profiles they're beautiful. It's just like just exploding off the tray. Stacy, Kentucky, they don't even have a cuisine, okay? Yeah. But she's coming in bringing Asian flavors and this and that, and Luis from Venezuela, and I'm like, oh my God, man!
I'm just a girl from Kingwood.
How my pinto beans and ham hocks gonna stand up to this shit, or my corn pudding, or this, whatever, man. But that's what I know. That's what I do, and that's what I feel, works for me. So I stuck with it. I think it was it might have been that episode about the barbecue burger, man, the Texas Q Rodeo Burger. And I started thinking, fuck, man. First, it was I didn't want to go home on the first episode after what happened on Chop, right?
Yeah.
So I got past that, and on that first episode, they told me that all the critique was really good. So I knew I didn't suck that bad, right?
Yeah.
But the second episode was the beer challenge with Tuffy being there, right? And that I don't drink much at all, rarely, right? And I've never liked beer, never been that person. But that packaging, this says something about packaging, man. I saw that red box, Killian's box. I'm like, yeah, I want that. And just thankfully that it was something that I could work with, and that beer bride chicken, and for Kevin to say it was the best protein he had ever had on this history of the show, I thought it meant a lot to me.
You think?
And it was after that. After that, I thought, well, if he thinks that's good, watch this shit.
Yeah. Well, congrats. What's next, man? What's
everything, next? Dude. Like I said, we are start filming a pilot at the end of this month. We're going to be featuring Texas barbecue all over the world, and specifically also in Houston. We're going to be partnering up on a production to really highlight the stories, the mess of it, how we get here, what we plan for the future, that sort of thing for barbecue. So there's so many, at least 22 craft joints I could put my finger on right now that we could go do a story about. So there's that, there's the cookbooks, whether it's the 13 challenge winning recipes for Barbecue Showdown, the brisket book, all at texasq.com. We have our sauces, our rubs. The brisket rub will be coming out next. Our Creole rub is there now. All our regular merch, branded stuff. But there's just so much going on. A lot of partnerships with other people that I have a lot of respect for in the industry. The biggest thing I've ever done in my barbecue life will be to go up and sit down with M&M Barbecue. We're going to talk about collaborating. And those guys I have more respect for than anyone I think I've ever met in this industry. We have our methodology of how we do business very much aligns, and bottom line, never let anyone outwork you, ever.
Well, it's obvious, man. It is really obvious, Sloan. You are a terrific story, and one that I wanted to get onto the podcast. But
thank you, John.
You guys, thank you for joining us. You guys, I could do this again, and we will at some point. There's so much.
Anytime, man. I like you, John. You're great for barbecue, man. You really are. I appreciate everything that you're doing and giving us a platform to talk about this incredible obsession that we have with smoking meat. Man.
Well, you and me both, girl. All right, so I got 10 more questions. We'll be able to do those another time. Right now, I want to thank you again. I want to make sure everybody hangs around because we got the smoking hot tip of the week from DJ Menzel at Texas Star Grill Shop in the Woodlands. Until then, you guys, we enjoy having you on, Sloan, and we're going to do it again, okay?
Thank you, sir. I look forward to it. Have a wonderful evening.
All right, I put a pause there.
Okay.
You may have noticed I started the recording a little late. I'm going to take 2 minutes of your time to go back to the beginning.
Go.
But do you have to check your brisket?
No, I'm good. I've got probably 5 minutes.
All right, I'll do about 2 minutes just to go back. I'm gonna put it in the front, and I was like, "What the hell am I doing?" And
that's all good, man. I'm with you.
All right, welcome into the Bite Meat Podcast. We have got a show for you today. Terrific lady, terrific story, and quite the barbecue pitmaster. I am John Lopez, and her name is Sloan Rinaldi. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Don't forget to join us every week right here wherever you get your podcast. But Sloan, we're going to jump right into it. Because you got into the barbecue game because it's family business, but you got in a little late. You got to tell us a little bit about that, and then we're going to get into some of your barbecue techniques.
Yes, sir. I sure did. I guess I'm the only fourth generation pitmaster that had not smoked barbecue. Did that at 50, right? So at 50, I decided, what the heck, man, and jump in after having a career in commercial construction for 32 years. Ended up selling that business and retiring, and had that light bulb moment that so many have watching barbecue pitmasters. And so the rest was history, so to speak. Absolutely.
The rest was history.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's good. And then I'll transition into the first answer that you had.
John, you're the best, man.
That's how us professionals that make mistakes do it.
That's awesome, man. As long as there's a way, man.
There's a way. Hey, enjoy your day. I'll hit you back in a couple of months, and we'll do this again. Maybe get an update on some of the things you're doing.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate it.
All right. Have a good day.
You too.
Yeah, man. So let's get into some of the techniques, some of the things that you are doing that are so unique. And we talk about craft barbecue. And with craft barbecue, a lot of people sort of look at it differently, but I want you to start at the beginning with some of the things that you're doing, Sloan.